Some machines you can buy easily, others you chase. The ones that live in old memories and rust and sunlight, just out of reach. Every collector has that one dream machine. The one you've only ever seen in faded pictures or sitting behind a fence, rusted but majestic. For vintage harvesters, that machine is the all-crop Super SP100, the forgotten pioneer. Built by Chalmers in the early 1950s, the SP100 was supposed to represent a bold leap forward. It was one of the first self-propelled combines designed specifically for medium-sized American farms. Compact, efficient, and surprisingly elegant for its time, it promised to make harvesting faster and less labor-intensive than ever before. It carried a small but durable 4-cylinder engine, delivering just enough power to run its narrow cutting platform and efficient threshing drum. This thing could handle wheat, oats, barley, even small grains that gave earlier models trouble. Farmers who used it loved its simplicity. The controls were straightforward, the maintenance easy, and the fuel economy almost unheard of for that era. So, sounds good, but why is it so rare? Well, that's because very few of them were ever built. Only about 1,000 units rolled off the line before Chalmers shifted focus toward larger, higher capacity models like the SP112 and SP125. A lot of SP100s ended up scrapped, scavenged for parts, or simply forgotten behind barns as bigger machines took over fields. Today, surviving SP100s are among the most sought-after combines in the collector world. Restoring one? That's not easy. Original parts are nearly impossible to find, and documentation is scarce. But for those lucky enough to own one, the SP100 isn't just a machine, it's a symbol of the transition between the small farm era and the mechanized future. But while the SP100 quietly marked progress in the West, across the Iron Curtain, another rare harvester was being built, one that carried the hopes of a very different kind of farm. That's the Fortschritt E162, the East German rarity. In post-war East Germany, everything about farming had changed. Resources were scarce, equipment was outdated at best, and mechanization lagged way behind the West. Then, in 1952, the E162 appeared, a humble, tractor-drawn combine that became one of the rarest harvesters ever built. Listen, this thing wasn't glamorous, it wasn't fast, but it was a symbol of resilience. Built in the Fortschritt factory in Neustadt, Germany, the E162 was designed to give collectivized farms a fighting chance. Instead of being self-propelled like Western combines, it relied on a tractor to tow it, making it cheaper and easier to produce during a time of extreme resource shortage. The design? It was simple but clever. It used a belt-driven threshing system and a modest cleaning chute that worked well for small grains like barley, oats, and wheat. The combine's compact body and adjustable sheaves allowed it to work in tight Eastern European plots where larger Western machines just couldn't go. But here's what makes it so incredibly rare. Only 54 units were ever produced. See, the 162 was more of an experiment than an actual production model. It was heavy, slow to maneuver, and often underpowered when paired with small tractors. Within just a couple years, they replaced it with the E512 and other self-propelled designs that could better compete with Western technology. From the American Midwest to the fields of East Germany, rarity takes a lot of forms. Now, one came from innovation, the other from limitation, and both tell stories of a world learning to harvest in entirely new ways. Which brings us to our next combine, the Oliver Self-Propelled Combine, the forgotten green machine. Now, back before Oliver tractors became collector icons, the company tried its hand at something bold, self-propelled combines. Now, in the late 1940s and early 1950s, Oliver introduced a small line of harvesters that promised to bring independence and efficiency to mid-sized farms. But despite their innovation, very few survived. Oliver's early SP combines, like the SP12 and SP18, were mechanically sound, yet way ahead of their time. They featured belt-driven threshing systems, steel grain tanks, and a surprisingly comfortable operator platform. Farmers admired the machine's clean threshing and sturdy build, but the market was already crowded with competitors like Chalmers, International Harvester, and John Deere. And production numbers were never high. Estimates suggest only a few thousand were ever built across all models, and many of them didn't stand the test of time. Parts were difficult to find, and Oliver lacked the nationwide service network that its rivals enjoyed. When the company merged into White Farm Equipment in the 1960s, most of these early combines vanished completely. Today, finding a complete Oliver self-propelled combine is like discovering a lost chapter of agricultural history. A handful of units sit in private collections, often restored lovingly in their original green paint and white lettering. They're reminders of a time when dozens of American companies were fighting to modernize the harvest, and when innovation sometimes came from some pretty unexpected places. While Oliver's machines disappeared quietly, another rarity emerged from John Deere's early experiments, a combine so elusive that even many Deere historians call it a mystery. But before we jump into that mystery, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It's easier than changing the oil on a 68 Maisie. Alright, the mystery. The John Deere Model 11, the Ghost Combine. Now, way before John Deere became synonymous with green and yellow giants, it was experimenting. In the 1930s, the company developed one of its earliest self-propelled prototypes, the John Deere Model 11. Very few people have actually seen one in person, and that's what makes this thing so fascinating. Built in extremely limited numbers, possibly fewer than 100 units, the Model 11 was never mass-produced. See, John Deere was still refining the self-propelled concept, balancing design challenges like weight distribution, crop feeding, and threshing efficiency. The machine had a narrow header, a small grain bin, and an open operator station. Primitive by today's standards, but absolutely revolutionary for its time. Now, because the Model 11 was released during the Great Depression, very few farmers could afford experimental machinery. Most relied on pull-type combines or horse-drawn harvesters, and as a result, the Model 11 faded almost instantly into obscurity. For enthusiasts, the Model 11 isn't just rare, it's mythical. It represents John Deere's first bold step toward the future that would one day make it the world's most dominant agricultural brand. But while Deere's rarity lives in legend, one European maker created a machine that still turns heads for its sheer size. A rare giant that proved innovation can sometimes be a lot bigger than success. I'm talking about the Claas Matador Gigant, the European giant. In the 1960s, Claas was already a respected name in Europe, known for building efficient and practical combines. But then came the Matador, a machine that lived up to its name and pushed the boundaries of size and capability for its era. Produced in limited numbers from 1961 to 1969, it was designed for the vast grain fields of Western Europe and parts of the Soviet Union. This thing was massive, equipped with a powerful diesel engine, wide header, and one of the first truly integrated grain handling systems. This thing could harvest enormous areas in a fraction of the time smaller combines required. But like many things, its scale was also its downfall. The Gigant was expensive, heavy, and difficult to transport between fields. Smaller European farms found it impractical, and Claas soon shifted focus to the more versatile Dominator series. As a result, very few Gigants were ever produced, and even fewer survive today. Collectors prize it not just for its rarity, but for its design, its distinctive shape, oversized grain tank, and bold Claas green and white finish that make it one of the most visually striking harvesters ever built. A few restored units still operate at vintage farm shows, where their thunderous engines remind onlookers what gigant really means. It was bold, hell, it was ambitious, and it remains one of the rarest combine harvesters in the world, a monument to a time when engineering dared to dream big. Every dent, every faded logo, every rusted gear still whispers the same message. Once, this machine fed the world. So make sure you give this video a like if you'd love to see more forgotten machines brought back to life. And don't forget to subscribe, because these legends may have aged, but their stories, they still run deep.